His Excellency Minister Mekonnen, Minister of Industry of the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia, Dr. Lopez, Executive Secretary, Economic Commission for Africa, Mrs. Dlamini Zuma, Chairperson of the African Union Commission, His Excellency, former President of the Republic of Botswana, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of President of the African Development Bank, Dr. Donald Kaberuka, I am honored to deliver these remarks to such distinguished gathering. Africa is presently in a position where it should be using its natural resources for accelerated wealth creation to bring about a resilient socio-economic transformation. Home to some of the world's largest deposits of oil and gas, gold reserves and strategic minerals such as uranium, cobalt and bauxite, Africa has undeniable comparative advantage in natural resources. However, the challenge for the continent is how to govern and harness this rich pool of natural resources to achieve a broad-based growth. This year's African Development Forum theme is thus timely, since it will enable us to brainstorm on concrete ways to address this challenge over the next 2 to 3 days. Allow me to begin by thanking our two partner institutions, the African Union Commission and the Economic Commission for Africa, for their excellent collaboration with the African Development Bank in organizing this 8th edition of the African Development Forum. I would also like to extend a special thanks to all of the participants being here today to exchange views on how the continent's wealth of natural resources can become a cornerstone for Africa's development. The African continent certainly has the potential for its wealth of natural resources to serve as a robust catalyst for economic growth, poverty reduction, and sustainable development. However, for this to happen, there are, we believe, 3 critical factors that are needed for the continent to shift from being resource-cursed to a resource-blessed continent. Firstly, promoting responsible investment for broad-based growth. Second, strengthening the governance for enhanced transparency and accountability. Third, building capable and responsive states for human development and socio-economic effectiveness. There are also technical issues that we need to address to ensure, for instance, an environmentally sustainable management of the resource. But I believe that governance challenges are even more pressing, and I would like, therefore, to briefly touch upon each of the 3 points as follows. First, on the issue of promoting responsible investment for inclusive growth. While natural resources are public goods, private investments and know-how are essential for their efficient exploitation, and I think Dr. Carlos have dwelled extensively on this point. In fact, there has been a notable increase in the role of private sector with respect to the exploitation and management of natural resources in Africa. This has created jobs and spurred economic growth. But, as you are all aware, regrettably, a number of challenges have also arisen, since individual interests do not always match with the needs of the population. This is the reason for which we need adequate laws and frameworks to govern natural resources investments, combined with effective legal and regulatory enforcement mechanisms. An adequate enabling business environment would promote upstream and downstream opportunities. Natural resources would thus have multiplier effect on other sectors of the economy. By way of example, the African Development Bank hosts the Africa Water Facility, an initiative led by the African Ministers' Council on Water, to mobilize and apply resources to finance water development activities in Africa. Similarly, the role of the land in Africa's development has been acknowledged, and large-scale land-based investments in our continent, in our client countries, is an area of focus that requires our attention. I would like here to acknowledge and mention our joint efforts with our partner institutions for recognizing these challenges, and thus the launching of the Land Policy Initiative, which was endorsed by the heads of states in 2009. Regarding the second point on strengthening the governance for enhanced transparency, I wish to note that the management of natural resources all along the value chain offers many sources of potential revenue for the public sector. Bottom line is, the resources should, in the end, lean to enhanced and improvement of public services for the citizens, the African people. At present, the management of natural resources in Africa is too often leading to the erosion rather than the strengthening of the trust between the citizens and the state. In order to foster this trust, there is a need for the state to become fully accountable for the revenues collected and how these are spent for the benefit of the population. Transparency can be promoted by international standards and regulations, but it remains first and foremost a responsibility of national governments to implement them effectively. The African Development Bank has recently expanded its support to its client countries through targeted support to institutional reforms. For instance, through the Africa Legal Support Facility, which is a demand-based technical assistance instrument to provide support to contract negotiations and ensure that countries are getting fair deal for the extraction of the resources. Targeted assistance is also provided to review legal and regulatory frameworks to help ensure that these principles are upheld. The African Development Bank support to the development, adoption, and now implementation of the African Mining Vision is also part of this effort. At the tax and royalty collection phase, the African Development Bank supports the implementation of the Extractive Industry Transparency Initiative to ensure transparent and accountable resource mobilization systems. On the third point, relating to building capable and responsive states for human development, there I wish to emphasize that in order to bolster transparency and accountability, community-based natural resources management has been applied effectively in some African countries. Indeed, multi-stakeholder groups, including civil society organizations, enhance participation and openness. However, the citizen's voice can best be heard through better political governance. Decision makers and policymakers have the opportunity to catalyze investments towards inclusive growth. Helping African countries build more capable and responsive states is one of the main focus areas of the African Development Bank medium to long-term strategy, but also in light of the long-term strategy of the African Development Bank, which is being finalized. In conclusion, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, while each sector and country has its own characteristics, there are common principles and approaches that we should discuss in the next couple of days, whether we speak of minerals, oils and gas, forests, fisheries, water or land. We can find solutions together for an integrated approach to natural resources management, an approach that stimulates socially and environmentally responsible investments and deliver growth and employment. While our institutions work closely together to act as facilitators, you, as decision makers and policy makers, have the power to make the difference in governing and harnessing natural resources for Africa's development. I thank you for your attention.